Hey, this is Mark, and you're welcome to AUTOSAYS. What if I told you the fastest cars of an era weren't just about speed? Beyond the roar of the engine and the thrill of acceleration, muscle cars ignited something far deeper, a cultural revolution. They became more than just machines. They became symbols of freedom, rebellion, and the American dream itself. But how did a handful of roaring V8s end up defining an entire generation's identity? Before we dive into that story, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's go full throttle into a journey where chrome met culture and horsepower met heart. Because this story isn't just about cars, it's about a movement that changed everything. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine it's the mid-1960s. Gas is cheap, the open road stretches endlessly ahead, and rock and roll is shaking the foundations of a restless America. The world feels young, bold, and hungry for change. And then, from Detroit's assembly lines, comes a new kind of beast. Loud, proud, and unapologetically American. The Ford Mustang, the Chevy Camaro, the Dodge Charger. Names that sounded less like cars and more like declarations of independence. Each one was built to do more than move bodies. They were built to move souls. See, muscle cars weren't born in boardrooms. They were born out of rebellion. The post-war boom had created a generation that didn't just want stability. They wanted excitement. They wanted to go faster, live louder, and prove that freedom could be felt through a steering wheel. The economy was thriving. America's confidence was unmatched, and the young men returning from war wanted machines that mirrored their hunger for life. These cars became their language, metal poetry roaring down endless highways. But this wasn't just about speed, it was about statement. A muscle car in your driveway was more than transportation. It was identity. It told the world who you were, independent, daring, and unwilling to blend in. These cars became rolling reflections of their owners' personalities. Every rev of the engine was a middle finger to conformity. And that's what scared people. Not the speed, but the spirit. Because when you heard a muscle car coming, you didn't just hear an engine. You heard freedom itself, roaring against the backdrop of a changing nation. Let's rewind to the streets of 1969. Saturday night. Neon lights glowing. Engines idling like tigers waiting to pounce. You'd see kids lined up on the strip. Engines rumbling. Eyes locked on the traffic light. Red, yellow, green. And then chaos. Tires screaming, smoke curling, adrenaline pumping. But for them, this wasn't chaos, it was church. A sacred ritual that bonded strangers into something like family. If you had a Mustang, you were Ford forever. If you had a Chevelle, you swore by Chevrolet. And heaven help you if you dared cross over. Those rivalries were personal. But that competition was love in disguise. It kept innovation alive. And it fueled an entire ecosystem of passion that money couldn't buy. Here's the thing. The American dream wasn't sitting in an office. It was gripping the steering wheel with both hands and watching the horizon blur. The highway was freedom made tangible. And just as the interstate highway system expanded across the country, it gave birth to a new kind of traveler, one who didn't need permission to go anywhere. The muscle car became their passport. It wasn't about where you were going, but how alive you felt getting there. And the car companies knew it. Oh, they played the game perfectly. The ads were seductive, rebellious, and drenched in attitude. Unleash the beast. Feel the power. Own the road. Each commercial was a love letter to power and independence. It didn't matter if you were a factory worker or a college kid. Owning one meant you'd made it. You weren't just driving a car. You were driving a symbol of everything America believed in: speed, strength, and self-determination. But muscle cars didn't just stay in garages or on the streets. They invaded pop culture. Think about it. How many iconic movie moments involve a muscle car tearing through the night? Bullet with Steve McQueen. Vanishing Point. Smokey and the Bandit. These weren't just action scenes. They were cinematic celebrations of what these cars represented: raw freedom, untamed energy, and defiance in motion. And then came the music. rock and roll didn't just play in the background, it fueled the movement. Every guitar riff seemed synced to the rhythm of a revving engine. Artists sang about highways, speed, and escape, because that's what everyone craved. Escape. You see, muscle cars weren't just metal and gasoline. They were emotion on wheels. They carried stories, dreams, heartbreaks, and hope. Teenagers fell in love in them. Fathers taught their sons to drive in them. And for a moment, everyone believed they could outrun whatever haunted them. These cars were therapy for a restless nation. But like all revolutions, it couldn't last forever. The 1970s brought a cruel reality. Oil crises, government regulations, insurance hikes. The age of speed met the age of responsibility. Suddenly, the roar of the engine started to fade. The once mighty muscle cars were silenced by politics and practicality. And yet, they never truly died. They just went underground, waiting. Because you can't kill a feeling that powerful. The spirit of the muscle car lived on in whispers, in garage restorations, in weekend drag strips, in late-night conversations that began with, "Remember when?" That nostalgia became fuel for a new generation. And soon enough, modern automakers began resurrecting the legends. The Mustang, the Charger, the Challenger, reborn for a world that missed their fire. Sure, they came with computers and safety features, but at their core, they carried the same DNA, that intoxicating blend of freedom and defiance. Here's a question. Why do they still matter today? In an era of electric cars, touchscreens, and self-driving tech, why do muscle cars still make our hearts race? Because they remind us of something primal, something we're in danger of losing. Control. The feeling of being in charge of something raw, unpredictable, and alive. They remind us that not everything needs to be efficient, or quiet, or safe. Some things just need to make your pulse race. That's the beauty of them. They remind us we're still human. And maybe that's why the legacy of muscle cars endures. They represent the last breath of a mechanical era before machines got polite. They're reminders of a time when America dared to dream big, live loud, and build without fear. When cars weren't judged by emissions, but by how hard they made your stomach drop on a straightaway. They were anthems written in steel. And even today, when a muscle car passes you on the highway, something inside you stirs. A mix of awe, nostalgia, and envy. Because you know, deep down, that whoever's behind that wheel isn't just driving, they're living. So maybe muscle cars weren't just about speed. Maybe they were about everything we've ever wanted. Freedom, rebellion, and belonging. They taught us that power isn't just measured in horsepower, but in heart. And that the sound of an engine can be more than noise. It can be the voice of a generation. So the next time you hear that unmistakable growl, don't just listen. Feel it. Because that's history speaking, reminding us of who we were and what we could be again. And if you felt that same spark, that pulse of adrenaline and nostalgia, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who knows that cars are more than machines. They're memories. They're freedom. They're the American dream on 4 wheels, still roaring, still alive, and still unstoppable.